Good evening, everyone. I'm Dennison Hulson, Chief Learning Officer for the National Art Education Association. During my many years of teaching art, I remember most those times when my students worked on their art during non-classroom times. You know, during lunch, after school, even weekends and evenings if I'd let them. They loved the art room, time to work, time to be with their friends, time to celebrate, and mostly time to be an artist. Tonight, you will learn firsthand how to support your students through the creation of a National Junior Art Honor Society or a National Art Honor Society. Tonight's webcast is being recorded and will be available in the Need to Know webcast in our website. Closed captioning is available by selecting live transcript on your computer. The Q&A and the chat will be open. Feel free to ask questions. We'll respond to as many as possible. With that, please welcome Thais Butler, NAEA Member Services and NAHS Program Coordinator. As a former NAHS student herself, she understands the positive impact the arts can have on student learning and experiencing school. So thank you, Ty, and take it away.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you to everyone that has joined us tonight. Again, my name is Thais Butler, and I have been in my role for a little over a year. In my position, I've seen so many incredible artwork produced by students in our program. It's truly amazing to see this level of skills from young, talented students. Throughout this webcast, we'll discuss how to establish and manage a successful chapter, but most importantly, about how having a chapter at your school enhances the community for and by your students. Tonight, we'll be hearing from teachers that'll share their chapter traditions, NAEA and Honor Society board members, and myself. There's so much to unpack, so if you have any questions, as Dennis said, please put them in the chat for us to answer. First, I would like to welcome the NJHS council member from our middle level division as she sponsors the Richard Hull Middle School, Almay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Aimee Bergamy, and as she said, I am the sponsor on the National Junior Art Honor Society representing, but I'm also the NAEA Middle Level Division Director currently. I founded my first NJAS chapter in 2005 when I started teaching middle school, and I was honored in 2009 to be recognized by NAEA as the NJAS Middle School winner, sponsor of the year. It was an amazing time. In 2017, I changed schools, and so I had the opportunity to again found a chapter, and I got to learn how many things had changed over the years with our National Art Honor Society. And that's one of the things I really want to convey to you tonight. First of all, in recent history, we've changed. So now we allow 6th, 7th, and 8th grade members in our chapters, and not everybody realized that. So that's a great addition to our program. With my chapter, my current chapter, it's a little bit more than an art club, and I call on my 8th grade students who've been with me for a long time to be leaders. And so that's the difference. That's what makes this more than an art club. They decide what activities that we'll do, and they teach those activities to other students. Beyond that, it's not just making art anymore. They do activities for the community, they do service learning, they do fundraisers. And so that leads to yet another thing. In a way, it becomes kind of a booster society for my art program. So I don't know about you, but many schools out there won't allow you to use school funds to pay for either your chapter dues for the Honor Society or for your dues to become a member of the National Art Honor Society. But since you have to be an NAEA member to found a chapter, this is an opportunity that we can be like our counterparts in music education and some of the other electives out there and use the funds that we raise in order to support not only our students in this honor society, but ourselves as members of an incredible and vibrant art community that can help bolster our programs. And so that's something I really wanted to make sure everyone knew. Finally, I'd like to say that through this, I've gotten to meet so many other sponsors, whether it's a Junior Art Honor Society or a high school honor society, and I've made amazing contacts and gotten so many ideas. And so this evening, one of those contacts, an incredible art teacher. I teach in the metropolitan Atlanta area, and because of my NJAHS chapter, I met Lydia Altuve at an exhibition. This is where I met this amazing lady, and she's going to tell you all about her chapter this evening. Take it away, Lydia.
Thank you, Amy. And as she mentioned, I'm from Georgia, and I'm very excited and honored to be here with you all this evening. And we'll go ahead and get started with the next slide. Well, I'm here coming to you talking about the National Junior Honor Society and how you can start one, basically based on what I did when I first started. I've recently transitioned to high school, so you'll end up hearing a little bit of snippets from some high schoolers about their experience a little bit later on, their experiences from the Junior Honor Society. Let's go to the next slide. Wanted to tell you a little bit about myself first. I am Georgia grown from the Peach and Pecan State, and I've taught for over 19 years within the arts. But it's been from all age ranges, from graduate school teaching international heritage preservation, all the way down to elementary age art students. And I've really enjoyed every bit of it. And as I mentioned, I am recently transitioned to teaching at an early college high school. And I teach students from all over the world and also from the metro Atlanta area. And some of my favorite areas of visual arts are digital photography, architecture, painting, and fiber art. Truly love crochet and knitting. Next. So in reflecting on basically my reasons and the inspiration for starting my first National Junior Art Honor Society, I reflected on my why. And these may actually connect to some of you here this evening. And when I was reflecting on my why, I thought about those early years, and some of the students would be so excited to be in the class. And as I would go throughout the classroom and, checking students' work and giving them feedback, I would always excitedly exclaim, "Oh, I can't wait to the end of the semester when we do our art exhibition." And when I look around the classroom, I would see blank faces staring back at me. And students would then say, "Well, what's an art exhibition?" So then I said, well, let me explain a little bit about it. But, it's when your art is hung up, and you may have experienced that in your last school. And they would still look at me with blank expressions and say, "No, we don't know about that." And so when I started hearing those types of answers, I knew there was something going on. There was a problem that needed to be fixed. And as I learned more about my students, a lot of them did come from transient backgrounds. So they transferred from schools a lot, and unfortunately they weren't able to really get a permanent fixture in their previous school to actually explore more about their art. And then sometimes they were in schools that didn't have permanent art teachers. They may have had a sub, and so they really didn't get someone inspiring them and telling them that their art really mattered. So because of that, I said, well, we need to do something about this. And so now I'm seeing that it's still something that I'm experiencing even at the high school level. So some of the benefits that I found by actually starting that National Junior Art Honor Society is that even at that point, I had administration that then could say, "Oh yes, this is a very important and viable part of our school environment." And not only did they see the visual arts class as very important, but then they started seeing that the National Junior Art Honor Society was making headway in the school for letting students know that they were important, and they also were able to be part of that school environment. And that's something I'm still doing even now at the high school level, to harness the excitement that I see in children's faces when they're exploring different art forms. Next. So I encourage you and invite you to start thinking about what's your why. So hopefully some of those thoughts that I had when I was thinking about my why and what inspired me will start getting you thinking along those same lines. But you may have some questions as you mull this over, like, is it just for the kids who love art? Or maybe is it just to go on field trips? Or is it a place for children with challenges during regular classes? Well, it can kind of be all of those. We know a lot of times as art educators, a lot of times kids who may have trouble in other classes with behavior or maybe just learning or applying the skills they learn effectively, they do better in art classes because they have different methods of showing their learning. And then of course, this is not only just for children who love art, but also those who may be good leaders, but then don't know exactly how they can express their leadership or grow it. And of course, field trips are great for applying learning. Those field experiences are wonderful. Next. So as you heard the benefits that came when I started the National Junior Art Honor Society during those first years, hopefully you'll start seeing some benefits that could happen in your school as well. But you may still have a few more thoughts that may be coming up on our limitations that could surface in your own environment. And some of them could be, we are limited on supplies, which I know is a challenge. And you'll be thinking about, well, what will the students use? You'll also be thinking about, will this take a lot of extra time? You may also think, well, I've had this question from other art teachers, is it just all about art competitions? And well, it does have a lot of art competitions that you can give your students the opportunity to participate in, but it doesn't necessarily have to take a lot of extended time from you, because this is a student-led organization. Their member roles, such as president, vice president, secretary, and the students are building their leadership skills. And they have really, in my experience, they really rise to the challenge of that. And then also with supplies, students usually have dues that they have to pay. And I know for mine, and you can also do this, you can decide how much you will charge. But for mine, we have certain dues, and the students decide on what they would like to do in terms of projects for the year, in addition to the overarching ones that I will let them know about, that may be from the school or maybe a national opportunity. But then those supplies, once the students tell me what they want to do, we order them, and those are just for the club. So that can kind of take some pressure off of your main use supplies for your class. Next. So once you get all of these thoughts kind of down on paper or organized, you want to start setting up a game plan. So you can go and actually speak to your administrators and tell them the purpose and the plan that you have for actually getting students more engaged. And this is always, art integration is something that's really developing, I know, in our state. So that also may be something that you can connect with as well. And this will be a perfect element for that. Then once you're able to let your administrators know, then of course you can start recruiting your students. And you'll probably already have students who are eager to do some extension activities with you and develop as leaders, creative leaders. Next. And I'm going to show you a brief video, but before we get there, I wanted to leave you with this mantra that I've been developing. And that is, art does not run the world, but it's the fire that helps it run. So if we think about what fire does in a lot of older transportation modes, like trains and such, it makes something run. It makes something be able to do what it needs to do. And that is what art does. That's what I believe art does. So now we're going to watch a brief video of 4 of my students who actually started out with me in the at the middle school level, and some of them are seniors now, and some of them are actually in the high school level National Art Honor Society. So here we go.
Now we have like the barns and stables where all like the pigs and cows and like chickens will like stay back in the farm because chickens, cows, they usually like use them for like milk and eggs, and that's like part of like the dairy. And then we have like a woman right here that we were thinking of like putting like the idea of like strawberry shortcake just like as like a just like a random idea. So like she's just here like milking another cow in the background because in order to have milk, you need the milk from the cows. And so
I love interacting with everybody and getting to know all of my fellow members. My experience so far has been great. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of nerve-wracking at first, but once I really got in the groove of things and I'm starting to get to know everybody, I've had an excellent experience.
My name is Victory, and why I joined the National Art Honor Society is because it was really just a really positive environment for me, especially as an artist, to be around like other artists. We exchanged a lot of creative ideas. We worked on a lot of stuff together, and it was just, I really learned a lot of stuff, like artistic wise and just life. I don't know, we had a lot of good life experience. Especially we went on field trips. The field trips were always interactive and fun. So yeah, that was a really good positive about it.
So I joined Art Honor Society because I thought of it as an artistic outlet. I do a lot of academics, and art and band, which I was also a part of, they both helped me express myself in ways that I couldn't in my core content classes, and it was always a good time. Everybody in there was always energetic, and we had good times, good jokes. We went to different museums, events, and they were always entertaining, and I even competed in a couple of events with my photography, going to the
So I want to thank you again for each and every one of you who have come this evening. And I just wanted to let you know I do have my contact information here on the screen in case you have any questions. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce our secondary division NAHS council member. She also is the chapter sponsor of Dover High School. Please welcome Mary Jane Long.
Thank you, Ty. I have been an art educator in Central Delaware for the past 19 years at all levels, and for the past 6 years at the high school level. In 2018, I started Dover High School's National Art Honor Society chapter, and this year we elected our first president, a very talented African-American young lady. In a few weeks, our chapter will be going to Delaware State University and HBCU to see Edward Loper's A Journey of Perspective that is on display until November 18th. We are very fortunate that he will actually be there to visit and speak to our chapter about his artwork and his career journey. Tonight, I would like to introduce you to Stephanie Silverman, a colleague of mine who teaches in Northern Delaware. She is going to share the amazing things she is doing with her National Art Honor Society chapter.
Thank you, Mary Jane, and good evening, everyone. And thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and especially for your interest in learning more about NAHS. My name is Stephanie Silverman, and I'm the chair of the Art and Design Department at Archmere Academy, a high school located about 20 minutes south of Philadelphia in Claymont, Delaware. I've been an NAHS chapter sponsor for about 15 years, and I'm really excited to take part in tonight's webinar and to share my experience as an NAHS chapter sponsor with all of you in hopes that you'll be inspired to start your own chapter. And if you're a current NAHS sponsor already, I hope you might explore some new possibilities for amplifying the vibrance and impact of your existing chapter. Next. First, as articulated on the NAEA website, NAHS is more than an art club. As an organization under the umbrella of NAEA, there are really two primary goals of NAHS, and they are to assist student members to attain their highest potential in all forms of art and to raise awareness of art education throughout the school and the community. So I recognize the importance of NAHS in empowering student leaders. We've kind of heard this theme echoed already from several of our presenters. And so I view my role as a supportive adult, but not as the chapter leader. Here you see our kickoff meeting of the school year where student members are generating possible ideas and goals for the year ahead based on the twin goals of NAHS. Next. So given that I prioritize student voice and agency in spearheading our chapter's initiatives and projects, I thought it would be best for you to hear firsthand from our student leaders, Helen and Patch, about why NAHS is important to them and our school community. After their clip, I'll share a bit more detail and of course some photos about some of the exciting NAHS initiatives that they reference.
Hi everyone, my name is Helen Chi and I'm the president of the National Art Honor Society.
Hey everyone, I'm Pat Shields and I am the vice president of the National Art Honor Society.
And together with our team of passionate students and our amazing teacher, Mrs. Silverman,
we help run the National Arts Honor Society here at Archmere Academy.
National Art Honor Society has been a big part of our high school experience at Archmere.
This program has given the opportunity to many young artists to be more motivated and involved in pursuing art later in life.
We have helped organize many events such as displaying our own personal art at the Delaware Art Museum,
as well as organizing art to be displayed at a Shine a Light event, a night for mental health awareness.
In addition to helping organize a bunch of school activities and events, we've also been involved in creating a series of videos to demonstrate a wide variety of art techniques for the local elementary schools in our community.
More recently, we've been trying to sell sunflower-themed cards to help support the Ukraine people.
Through these programs, we have helped others understand why art is so important to us.
Art is so important to us because it gives us many opportunities to express ourselves in very creative ways.
National Art Honor Society has helped in cultivating our own creativity, not only through art, but also through the collaboration with others.
National Art Honor Society at a high school level is important to us because it prepares us for collegiate level art.
And it teaches us how to use our own skills and creativity to benefit our community.
This is the National Art Honor Society Archmere Academy chapter.
Get involved and be creative.
It's always great to hear from student leadership. So next. So this slide shows the outcome of the creative student-led fundraising project that Patch and Helen mentioned. NAHS members created artwork featuring sunflowers, a symbol of peace in Ukraine, and then their art was developed into printed stationery, which was donated by a local printer. The sets then sold for $5 each, with proceeds from the sale of the note cards benefiting humanitarian relief efforts in Ukraine. Next. Students have also enjoyed opportunities to learn from visiting artists throughout the year, including Jeff Shaler, a local encaustic painter whose work is featured on the set of the hit TV show Friends. Next. So with Jeff's presentation and workshop, NAHS members had a valuable opportunity to engage with a real commercial artist and learn about the business of art from an entrepreneurial perspective, and then of course experience some hands-on encaustic painting. Next. Additionally, students in NAHS proposed their own ideas for art making and learning activities for the group. So student members would take turns planning and leading various art making demonstrations, and I would work closely with these students to organize and plan their lessons. And so these experiences gave students a valuable opportunity to experience what it's like to be an art educator. As Helen and Patch mentioned earlier, students have also made instructional video tutorials and shared them with local organizations serving children in our community who may otherwise not have access to art instruction. Next. And one highlight of our group last year was a year-long project that culminated in an exhibition at the Delaware Art Museum. And I just wanted to mention that my relationship with this local museum was forged when I was completing my capstone project for the NAEA School for Art Leaders back in 2016. I was able to build on my established relationship with the museum's education department to organize a field trip and special month-long student art exhibition in observance of Youth Art Month, which you know is March, in the museum galleries. Next. After a field trip to the museum, students created an original work of art inspired by a piece in the collection. We then printed invitations and invited our entire school community and held a special reception at the museum. Next. Additionally, we arranged for free admission to the museum the day of the reception to further connect our school community with art. We had this really amazing turnout, including parents, faculty, administrators, families, and students. Next. Here's another shot of the gallery exhibition. And with each piece that was on display, students created short videos about their artwork and the piece they selected from the collection. And then we generated QR codes of these videos and displayed them with the pieces. So there was an interactive and art educational component to the exhibit. Next. You might already be familiar with the most recent strategic vision put forth by NAEA, and I just wanted to connect the themes in my presentation to two key priorities identified in Pillar 5 for community vibrancy. So first, it's important to note that NAEA recognizes the value of design for art education to include based opportunities. And last year, our National Art Initiative Next. So as the National Art Honor Society sponsor communication from NAEA in October 2021 about a contest sponsored by NAEA and Herschel, which you might know as the Canadian Backpack Company, and Pencil. And this opportunity, as I mentioned, was available exclusively to NAHS members. And so, of course, I encouraged all of my NAHS students to submit a design to the competition. Students were tasked with designing an original backpack for production, and there was a $10,000 grand prize at stake. Next slide, please. So after several competitive finalist rounds, my student Jocelyn Zavala Garcia, pictured here second from left, was one of two grand prize winners for the contest. Her design was inspired by a painting she created in my AP studio art class focusing on immigration issues. Next. And what I love about Jocelyn's project is that it's a fusion between contextualized creative problem solving, with design for real world use, also coupled with empathetic design. So the design itself is raising consciousness of a humanitarian crisis. And Jocelyn also stipulated that she would want a portion of the proceeds from the sale of her backpack to support displaced people in need. And here she is this summer on site at Herschel, where she had the once in a lifetime opportunity to see her design materialize into a real 3D prototype. Next. And here's her final design. And as you can imagine, this was an incredibly affirmative and empowering opportunity for her as a young artist and designer. And it, of course, would not have been available to her had she not been a member of the National Art Honor Society. Next. So just as I conclude here, I hope this presentation offered a glimpse into a variety of possibilities for your NAHS chapter and hopefully the inspiration to start one if you haven't yet. So thank you all so much for your attention.
We have heard such great examples today from leaders in our organization on how to manage your chapter. The National Art Honor Society program supports student members in their efforts to attain the highest standards of art, character, and service. Next. If you have not registered or renewed your chapter, please use this QR code now to visit our website where we provide all the ways you can register and learn more about this great program. Next. As a sponsor, you're providing the maximum possibilities for your students. The level of dedication by your students in their chapters shows in their artwork as they strive to better their skills and build their community. Students are required to meet the expectations of the Honor Society Constitution and their chapter bylaws, such as maintaining a B average in their art classes and by completing a set number of service hours. By establishing a chapter at your school, students have various opportunities to show off many talents to receive college scholarships, NAHS awards, participate in jurid expeditions, along with the NAHS news and so much more. Check out our website again so you don't miss out on the countless student opportunities and deadlines. Next. We recommend teachers register their students between July 1st through January 31st to allow your students to participate in these exclusive member opportunities and have enough time to order merchandise. Sponsors are still able to register their chapter after January if that timeframe works better for their chapter needs. Student membership is $5 per student, and sponsors must have an active NAEA membership until June 30th of each year. There's so many great examples in our handbook on how to start communal projects like fundraisers, fashion shows, sell calendars that include your student artwork. While in your chapter, students are able to gain valuable experience by coordinating events, creating murals, items for pep rallies in their local community. These activities support leadership growth and college preparation. Teachers also have access to Collaborate, which is a virtual forum for all NAEA members to connect with one another and gather inspiration on how to navigate their chapters. Next. So over the summer, our team had updated the online registration process to help sponsors streamline the database with more ease. Members are now able to click through their chapter profile directly from their NAEA account. We also added more features like adding more students throughout the year. So you don't have to use the registration form if you're adding more. Next. Once you are linked as the chapter sponsor, you would have your school's chapter profile on the left-hand side of your NAEA account. If you have not been linked to your chapter, please contact our member service team so you can have access to this profile. We've incorporated 4 tabs directly in your profile for your student registration, chapter documents, such as uploading or viewing your student roster or chapter bylaws, invoices for your chapter merchandise or student dues, and lastly, the NAHS store. To register your students, we're going to start by selecting the registration button. Next. The following screen shows the types of memberships offered. If you have students grades 9 through 12, you would select NAHS. But if you have students in grades 6 through 8, you would choose NAJHS. Next. Next, you'll type in the total number of students in your chapter to be registered at this time. Next. Once you've done that, you'll review the total to ensure the accurate number of students to be registered. Next. And if you're paying by credit card, you can go ahead and type in the card information, or if your school requires an invoice, you can select Bill Me as the payment option, which will generate an invoice for your student dues. Both options allow you to either be emailed a receipt or the invoice that was requested. Next. So once we are done registering your students, you can now upload your student roster. Next. We are now going to go back to your chapter profile and select Documents. Next. If you would like to use the roster form provided by NAEA, click on the link above, which will allow you to type in your students' names and their grade level. Once you've completed that form, you can select Continue to upload student roster. Next. Upload your form into the documents, and now you're all set registering your chapter. Next. The biannual NAHS News is published online and available for both middle and high school chapters. You can submit up to 5 student artworks and 2 chapter photos, which shows your exciting field trips, working hard on your communal involvement or ongoing projects. We ask that you also submit a 400-word statement of what your chapter's been doing this school year. By submitting artwork, oftentimes your student pieces are selected to be published in the NAHS Handbook, NAEA Journal, NAEA News, and holiday cards. Last year, we received over 400 submissions from chapters like yours to be represented in the NAHS News. Submissions for the 2023 NAHS winter issue is now open and deadline is November 1st. Can't wait to see what your chapter's been up to. Next. We showcase chapter photos to highlight the student accomplishments in their schools. This was submitted by NAHS Notre Dame Preparatory Chapter in Towson, Maryland, showing the behind the scenes of their fashion show, Project Greenway, where students use recycled items to recreate their own fashion pieces. Next. We have some spooky artwork to get you in the right side of mind, submitted by NAHS Liberty High School and NJHS Leawood Middle School. Next. Also, the annual Jurd Expedition is another way to showcase talented artwork by students. In this competitive exhibit, jurors will select up to 75 arts of work, and artwork submitted is even seen by visual art education professionals, creative leaders, and students from across the globe. In 2022, NAEA received over 1,600 submissions and over 200 artworks. Past exhibits can still be viewed on our website. Next. For each entry, sponsors are required to enter the student's name, grade level, and an artist statement from the student as shown. Next. And here's just another great example of such the creative artwork that is submitted in the Jurd Expedition. Next. Chapter members are invited to submit artwork for possible inclusion in the annual Jurd Expedition, which will be held virtually in 2023. Scan this QR code to visit our website and learn more about how to submit for this year's exhibit. Deadline for submissions is November 16th. Next. Designed with Honor Society members in mind, these items promote visual arts in your school and community, as well as providing academic recognition. Products are available exclusively to registered National Art Honor Society chapters. You can use this QR code to visit our website and order merchandise for your students while supply lasts. Next. And now it is with great pleasure to introduce NAEA's Executive Director, Mario, as he will be sharing more information about upcoming events happening at NAEA.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Thais, and to all of our presenters so far. I don't know about you, but I am missing my classroom days and wish I could be a sponsor of a chapter right now. I know my students would have loved this opportunity. If we can go to the next slide, please. So we know that you're getting a lot of great information, ideas, and things that you want to do as next steps. So we just want to bring this slide back up. Many of the answers to your questions will be in the recording of this session right now, but you can also find those answers if you go to this QR code or to the tiny URL. We'll just leave that up for a moment longer because I know I saw in the chat some folks were trying to capture this. So please go ahead and take your camera up to that right now if you need to. But this will answer many, many of your questions around the processes and the benefits of being a chapter sponsor. Next slide, please. So if you feel the community and excitement that we all have, clearly our colleagues have passion to work with our young people. The honor societies really are about the arts in service to their communities, which is so inspiring. And it's a way for young people to learn how the arts and creativity can really give back in a multitude of ways. And there's a lot of student voice and student agency, and you heard Stephanie talk about that, but also love when Lydia talks about that fire or that spark that really fuels us and ignites more creativity and more passion. But if you like that kind of community and you're an art teacher like I was, where I was so passionate, but I was the only art teacher in my building, you might find even more community by being a member of NAEA. And so all of us really work pretty closely together, even though we're all over the country. And just by establishing your chapter and getting your honor society or your junior art honor society started, you'll become automatically an NAEA member because those things are connected. But if you are a member, you get these additional benefits. And we know that art educators are constantly looking for the professional development that really suits and is tailored to their specific needs, and also staying abreast of trends and issues, and also how to leverage their programs to get greater support back home. So on this slide, you'll see our professional journals about current issues, access to webinars, which you'll see more about in a second, our national convention, which you'll hear more about in a second, our awards program, which is a way to uplift and recognize all the good work you do and take those awards back home to get that additional support. There's many, many more opportunities, so please check this out. If you're already a member, we love you, thank you. If you want to become one again, we welcome you back. And if you haven't become one yet, we're ready. Waiting by the phones. We can go to the next slide, please. This gives you a sense of our monthly professional webinar series. This site was just revamped. We have actually years worth of webinars now cataloged in our library, which is newly searchable by topic. But you can see that we really take the temperature of the field. We talk to fellow art educators to find out what's top of mind for them, whether it's about creativity, college and career pathways, storytelling, really dealing with equity, diversity, inclusion, supporting our young learners with disabilities. These topics are top of mind for our colleagues, and so we make sure that we're providing this regular webinar series. And then tonight is a webcast, which also happens monthly. So there's at least 24 of these coming out a year to support your learning and growth. Next slide, please. We're really excited. We all join in person and virtually for our national convention annually. This coming year will be in San Antonio, April 13th to the 15th. This is a cacophony of art teachers celebrating all that great energy, enthusiasm, and all those ideas, lesson sharing, inspiration, the artists that are really catching our eyes, sharing our craft, our strategies. There are about 700 member-led sessions. There are great keynotes, there's hands-on workshops, and the city of San Antonio is really quite a creative hub in Texas. So we're really excited to gather there. And we'll be talking more about the honor societies there too, and their future growth. Next slide, please. A new feature for the honor societies is that we have started a social wall. So if you use any of those hashtags in the bottom right corner, you can add to the social wall. So it basically pulls from social media, and then it populates this on our website. So it sort of becomes its own social media wall on the NAEA website on the Honor Society pages. So this is a snapshot of that. But you can once again go to the QR code, which will take you directly to this on our website. Or if you just go to the NAHS tab on our website on the homepage, it's really easy, 2 clicks to get to the social wall. Next slide. And before I thank everyone, I just want to take a minute to say a couple things. We know we're talking about our middle school and high school students. We are currently in development for some guidance on forming elementary art clubs. It's not an honor society, but we think it's a first step into a feeder program to join NJAHS or National Art Honor Society. So we're really working behind the scenes with our colleagues in the elementary division to create this guidance. And there's a lot of the same tips, but it's tailored to that age group. So that should be coming out this fall before the end of the calendar year. We're excited about. And then you heard Stephanie mention the Pencil Herschel NAEA partnership. That's just one example of the partnerships that we seek out to not just motivate, but to reward our young people and our young artists. So, if you're part of this community, those opportunities come out again and again every year. There are scholarships for college, there's design competitions, and we're really working to build that portfolio as well. So before we go to Q&A, so I know you're keeping the chat and the Q&A active and many of your questions were answered. I just wanted to do a big thank you to Dennis for hosting and Christy, who's behind the scenes, helping out in the chat. And then Thais, you've also been a great host. Thank you for leading this program. Amay and Mary Jane, thank you for your board leadership and your Honor Society leadership. And then of course, Lydia and Stephanie, thank you so much for being great exemplars and inspiring all of us in our practice and showing and uplifting your students' voices. We really appreciate that. And now I'm going to turn it back to Thais for the Q&A.
All right, so let's see. Which questions did we not get to already? That's the main thing. I think Christy was on it.
It looks like most of them in the chat have been addressed. If anyone didn't, feel free to put it back in the chat. The questions that I saw that really stood out were some of the first steps that someone might take when they start a chapter. And I thought maybe we could just vocalize that a little bit, because I saw folks weigh in on that. But what are some of the first steps that folks with us tonight might suggest to our audience?
I feel like the teacher should answer this one.
Yes, exactly.
I'll jump in. I think, the key with any kind of program that you're looking to amplify and, create value in your school community, which in turn reinforces your value as an educator to your community, is visibility, right? And that's not only, your students' work, but it's your work too. And I think, thinking about creative ways to create student exhibition opportunities, and anytime you can reinforce the art educational instructional value of the work on display is really helpful. It can be easy to forget that we know our content so well, we can appreciate it differently. And so one strategy I've been using, as I mentioned, for the Delaware Art Museum pieces, and even in some of our school-wide displays, are these QR codes of student explanations about their work, what they learned, what they were trying to do, the elements and principles of art that they were emphasizing in their work, things like that, that showcase the learning that's happening. Right. I think we all know as art educators, we have to be our own advocates for our program and our work to ensure that there's parity and equivalency, among all the disciplines, that we're situated in the academic program, equal to math, science, English, things of that nature. So anytime you can have any kind of instructional explicit write-up about that, maybe be your own marketing department, send blurbs of information to your school's newsletter, get the word out, describe what you're doing, share what you're doing. I know it can seem like one more kind of task to kind of self-document what you're doing, but the easier you can kind of craft like sound bites really, or nuggets of news stories or snippets for your administration, or if your school has a marketing person or newsletter for parents or whatever, I think it's a kind of advocacy. So I'd start with an art show with some kind of explanation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie.
And I actually, one of the things I put in the chat was that when I founded my chapter, I negotiated to make sure that when we had awards night and it was the big to do and all the parents came, that is when I gave out my pins, and I called all those kids up. And before I did it, I did a little slideshow about who we were and how this is like the National Art Honor Society is like the National Honor Society. This is recognizing excellence. And you know what? The parents who were in the audience have other kids. And so they were like, wait a second, those 14 kids just got big awards. And so how do we do this? Because we need to find out what this is. And so that's like one of the best ways to market. And when I walked off that stage, my principal was like, you've really done something, and it grew. And so, start, that in high school, I'm the middle school person, but in high school we have the chords and things like that. So start looking for ways that you are doing that on the middle level.
And I know in my district, when I started my chapter, I put the article in the NAHS news. And when my article was there, I printed copies and I gave it to my principal and like my assistant principal, and I gave it to the principal. And then I sent the PDF to like the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, and I told them what page my article was on. So they were like, oh my gosh, you got our students in the article. And I made sure that in the article, like I put the name of the school and I put the town and the state that we were in. So I made sure that that was in there, so that that's highlighting like our state, because Delaware is really small, and it's highlighting our school and our school district. So by doing that, that also is adding that credibility to who you are and then where you come from, because that's going to make them look good as well. So that's also going to make everyone look good. So they're going to promote, and they're going to want to promote things that are going to make them look good as well. So that's also a way to give yourself credibility and them credibility, and they're going to support things that make them look good too.
And I had one more thing to add to these great ideas, because they're really, really strong. So I definitely encourage everyone to definitely try them. But one thing that I found is really key is elevating, and I think Stephanie mentioned this about elevating it as an academic, and so did AMA, as an academic society, an honor society, because that's what it is. And a lot of students, parents, administrators, and other teachers may not quite understand the level of it. They may, although art clubs they do a lot of good and they develop the students artistically. The Art Honor Society, as we've talked about, is like the next level up. And sometimes if you explain, like it's similar to Beta or National Honor Society, they can kind of make that connection. And also if you can connect to national opportunities, like one of the things that my club did in the past was they did a collaborative portraits of several of the finalists for the National Teachers of the Year for 1 year. So that kind of connects them to a higher level. And then administrators, of course, like this. And for our state, our superintendent of our state is really supportive. And so he always asks for different Christmas ornaments or different art pieces for his office. So if you may have that opportunity in your state as well. So I encourage you to look at that.
I just put in the chat a link to the news story I wrote about tonight's webinar featuring our students in case anybody wants to take a look. Full disclosure, I have a background in marketing and communication, so I leverage that whenever possible to be the PR person for the art department.
That's great. That's what I was going to say. I'm hearing leverage from everyone's response is like increasing the value proposition for the arts and leveraging the program for greater art success. I know there's a new Q&A in there about induction. So I don't know if someone got to respond to that question.
I did type an answer, but I know for me, I love doing them in May. And then so I can induct new members and choose officers. And then in June, I like to have like the planning meeting. So you set your calendar for the following year, set when you want to do fundraisers, what fundraisers you want to do, set everything up. So then when the school year starts, you are ready to hit the road running. That's kind of how I do it. So everything's laid out, everything's planned, because at high school, there are so many events. If you don't get everything put in that calendar in June, then the next year you're going to be scrambling the whole year, like the whole year.
Right. That's right. And then I saw we had a lot of questions about, is there support at the school level to help pay for the chapter or the sponsorship? And I think that really depends case by case, school by school. But, you know, I've been a district administrator for a number of years prior to this role, and I know that many schools will have an activities budget, or there might be some written into the contract, or the principal might have some funds at their discretion. It really is different per case. Sometimes you'll find a PTA or an outside sponsor, but overall, you know, I think it's very affordable in terms of making that ask, especially if you can show that heightened attention that your students in your school will get. So I think it's really making that case, which we heard so eloquently tonight. I know we're getting close on time. Ty, is there anything else that you wanted to cover for the group?
Yes, I just wanted to mention it's been extremely exciting working with everyone to getting this together. And I want to thank my team, but I also want to thank sponsors to continue to make this program thrive. And for those who are considering tonight and establishing a chapter, I will leave my information in the chat room. So if we didn't get to any of your questions or comments, you can just send them over and I'm always there.
Excellent. So I think we are at close, and we appreciate everyone joining us. And again, a big virtual round of applause to all of our guests. Again, thank you so much, Lydia, Stephanie, for sharing your good work, Mary Jane, Amy, and then Christy, Dennis, and Ty. Thanks so much for your leadership here. And I know the chat's still going. We'll hang on till the clock runs out here, but if anyone wants to answer any more questions in the chat, feel free to go for it. And I know everyone's got a busy week, so thank you for attending and have a great night and great rest of your week.